continuing on that theme of people using their words to help build up, I'm going to invite up Jim Harries, who's going to tell us a little bit about some of the work he's been doing. If you don't know Jim, I'm sure he'll tell you a bit more about himself. Been a missionary for 30 years, and he's back here just this week. He's going to be coming to some of the events we're going to that they kind of have on this week. So I'll leave it.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back in Wantage Baptist Church. I was here a couple of years ago, and before that 3 years ago, and that's kind of how I do it. Thank you for introducing me there. My name's Jim Harries, living and working in East Africa, primarily Kenya and Tanzania, teaching the Bible, pastoral training, and those kind of things. Those who are more interested in the work I'm doing, there's a table there with some books. If you have a spare 5 or 10, leave it there and walk off with a book. If you really want it and you don't have any 5 or 10, that's also okay. And thank you for those who've been praying, and for Jez for giving me this opportunity to share on the work briefly this morning. So Jez encouraged me to go back to my calling. How did I get called into this work in the first place? Well, when doing agricultural studies, I was often challenged, as we as believers are. How are you going to use your life for others? Love of God is reflected in lives given for others. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And I used to say to God or to myself, I haven't got the gifting, I haven't got the acumen. No, he can't be calling me to work overseas. Until eventually, this was 1987 for those who have grey hair, he confirmed that I should give myself to service to the poor somewhere. And then in due course, a door opened to Zambia in Africa. Now, part of my consideration was life or not at all. Now, I'm familiar that a lot of people do short-term mission. To me, as God, I believe, was speaking to me, he was saying, well, if you want to give yourself, are you giving it on condition that I give you a nice time? You know, let's try it out, and if it's fun, then I'll keep going. That to me wasn't the right way to go. So before I left the UK in 1988, I had before God committed my life. And indeed, life does throw spanners in the works. And if we're not a little bit determined, then they can throw us off course. So I went anticipating that maybe 20 years I'd be helping people produce more food. Because that's how we as young people in England were brought up, to think that what we have of value is the education and the ability to do things like food production. And we tend to think of love, wanting to love people as what we do. Now, just reading 1 Corinthians 13 and found actually love is also about what you do not do. Let's read Paul's words. Verse 4-6, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy. It does not boast. It is not arrogant. It is not rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable. It's not resentful. Does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. So I was rather struck by this. Love is things we don't do. It's not always giving someone something. It's what we do not do. So challenges that I face. First one, not to impose. Not to impose. There's a lot of pressure as a missionary to find a shortage and then to raise the money to fill it. And then the people like you because you're providing them with what they didn't have. Unfortunately, this is not always healthy, and it can lead to a lot of struggles and envy amongst the people as they compete or fight over the things that you're taking. So to me, the challenge is to be able to walk alongside people, in my case, people in Kenya and Tanzania, and minister with them and then leave, and they're not going to say, hey, you have to give us next week, but to be not an imposition, but an offer of fellowship. Another challenge regarding institutions, and I'll a bit bluntly put it like this: do we serve God or do we serve an institution? Because a challenge that we often find on the mission field is someone's been there before you and they've set something up and invested a lot into it. Now, when they retire or leave or whatever, then the institution will want to make sure that this project keeps running, and it kind of soaks up personnel to manage and administer projects. Sometimes these projects are of the ilk of white elephants. But is that necessarily what serving God is about? And a challenge here, I think for missionaries generally, are you there to keep a project going, or are you there to serve God? Now, they can be the same, but let's say a biblical model of serving God is not project administrator. It is, well, what it is. Third challenge, it doesn't work. I initiated with local people a Bible teaching program in 1994. It went for 18 years. We would go to people's homes, sometimes churches, open a class, teach the Bible, sometimes great time, very valuable discussions and insights that people were getting. But the project died. People came anticipating, and this is the case in Africa, that someone from England with my pale skin color will give them money. When they didn't have money, their enthusiasm to learn the Bible waned. So what do you do if you fail? Well, the question is, do you love the project or do you love the people? Because if you love the project and you love to succeed, then of course when you fail, you go home. But if you love the people, then if one project doesn't work, well, you go on to something else. So that was the third challenge. What to do if it doesn't work? Well, make sure you love the people and keep going even when you're not successful. Third, marriage. I think there are many ways in which marriage is incompatible with cross-cultural ministry. And I don't say that lightly. I've stayed single in order to continue the work in Africa. I know marriage is an important thing to many people, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but celibate ministry is something that we need to be considering, because a celibate person can get to places that married people just cannot do. Their commitments, the language they use in their home, and whatever it is, a place for celibate ministry. The fifth challenge, a little bit different, gut parasites. Now, maybe including that malaria. So people praying, do pray for this side of things also. I've taken a lot of prophylaxis over many years till the body's probably tired of them. And standards are different, and by one means or another, I tend to pick up parasites in the work I do there in East Africa. Sixth challenge, come back. Come back. And that, frankly, is the challenge, because everything pulls you back to England. The pressures to give up, the pressures to stop and go home are great. One thing after another, kind of hinting, time for you to leave. I don't mean from the local people, but from the institutional setup, from the West itself, from financial wisdom and everything else. So another challenge is to continue to stay with the people that God has called you to work with. So, I mean, in my case, I've been 32 years basically in one village, and that was the intent, because it's so easy to go to many different places and learn a great deal of different things, but not be familiar with the people you're actually with in a way that can enable you to take the gospel meaningfully to them. Seventh challenge, envy. And I've mentioned this already, because the missionary who wants to fulfill people's needs and uses money to do so tends to provoke a lot of envious reactions in the community. To avoid them, well, you don't have things to give out. But nevertheless, I think this is a very foundational issue for people, wherever you are. Aspiring to be like someone else becomes not liking someone else because they're better than you. Very much a challenge in the gospel work. The one challenge, can I be not envious? What happens to me if I fail? Am I going to just carry on, or am I hurt? Am I upset? Am I depressed because people don't like me? Whatever it is, envy. So perseverance, rooted in love of God, that translates into love for people. And thank you for those who pray for me in that respect, and other missionaries to continue to persevere. Now, to closing slide, there's my Gmail, if someone wants to write to me. Otherwise, the work of the Alliance for Vulnerable Mission, many of you know I've been working with this for many years, having founded it in 2007. And excellent news, in the last year or so, we have a new director who's taken it over and making a lot more progress on advocating that some Western missionaries should do key ministry outside of the West using entirely local languages and resources. So, thank you very much for listening. God bless you, and look forward to still being together with you. Thank you.